I mean, I've never had problems with them, so I think it's fine.
Stand by. Woo. You're on, Mayor.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Ad Hoc Pool Committee meeting for December 15th, 2020. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with Governor Sisolak's directives. There will be no in-person attendance by the public. Public comment may be made either via email or voicemail prior to the meeting, or anyone may call in during the public comment periods. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of order. Two or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. Go ahead and call the meeting to order, and why don't we go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start with our first public comment period. During the initial public comment period, items for discussion are those listed on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and please be civil and concise. The phone number to call is 702-589-9629. Again, anyone wishing to speak during the initial public comment period for the Ad Hoc Pool Committee, the phone number is 702-589-9629. Ms. Callaway, did we have any email or voicemail comments?
We did not.
Thank you. All right, hearing no comments, we will close the initial public comment period. Move to agenda item number 1 for possible discussion, approval of the minutes from November 17, 2020. Any questions or comments on those minutes from the November meeting? Anyone wishing to offer a motion for approval?
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item number 2 for possible action, discussion, and provide recommendations regarding the design feature and elements of the new aquatic facility. Mr. Luttrell.
Good afternoon, Mayor and committee members. Keegan Littrell, Public Works Director. Before we jump into the changes we made to the site plans over there, Julie's trying to get Mr. Sheldon Cullen on the line. He's from SCA Design that we hired to do the analysis of the existing pool. I'll wait till he's on the line.
This is Sheldon.
Hi Sheldon, this is Julie with the City of Boulder City. We have you on the line for our ad hoc pool committee meeting.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
So I asked if we could have Sheldon call in discussing their scope of work for analyzing the existing pool. We'd also reached out to them about possibly putting together just a rough estimate of what a new pool would cost, because I know when we went to the public and asked if they would support a $40 million pool, it was shot down. And part of our committee is looking at coming up with what we want in a new pool and what that might cost. And in talking to Sheldon, in a very polite way, he told me me asking for a rough estimate was not a good idea. He was fearful that if he were to give us a rough estimate just per square foot cost of different parts of the facility, and then if we ever went to construct it and design it, and then the numbers came way back, it would basically give him a bad name, which is a very valid point. So I asked him to call in and maybe provide some of his ideas of if we were to ask them to put together an estimate for a new pool utilizing what the committee wants in a new pool. He had some really good ideas, and I felt he could share it a lot more clear than what I could. So Sheldon, do you want to give us some of your ideas that we discussed on the phone the other day?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sheldon. I'm with SCA Design, a local architecture firm in Henderson. What we're proposing is, and what I had talked to Keegan and Jim about, is I tried to explain that the first part of the project is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to go in there, review everything, give you an estimate on what needs to be done, and try to get you a price for all that stuff, and a real price, not just a perception. And then they came back and said, we would like to try to see if we can achieve what everybody wants within a certain budget. And unfortunately, I can't just say, hey, let's just put a $300 square foot price tag on it and call it good. So what I was proposing to do is come up with a design, and that includes me, a pool a pool supplier, a pool builder, and an MP&E engineer. And it would be a real design, not just a perception. And then the problem is I don't want to come to you and say we can do it for this amount and then it not be real. So all three of us would then go and take our information to a cost estimator, which was all part of our scope of work, and they would come up with a reality of what we're doing. And then once you saw that, you could come back and say, you know what, that's more within budget for what we're trying to achieve. Because I understand where you're at. You came up with a pool that's $21 million, and it's going to cost you a lot to do. And I'm not trying to take all your money. I'm just trying to help you get to the end game. So that's what we were proposing to do, is to work closely with everybody, try to achieve what everybody wants, see what's the best route to go about this, because we do realize that the existing pool has problems, not just code problems, but construction problems. And we would have to see what's the best route to get what everybody is trying to achieve. And that I see as a public pool, but also some great diving opportunities and a pool that's a little deeper than you have. So that's where we're at.
Does anybody have any questions for Sheldon?
I just got to say, I think it's a breath of fresh air to hear that. I think that's exactly what we need, is some good direction and just a team like you've talked about to put it together and add those elements that we're talking about. And thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. We're here to help out. I've been in Vegas a long time, so we're here to help out and make this a success for Boulder City.
Do you have any, this is Mayor McManus, do you have any idea of a timeline that you might be coming to a conclusion on the price?
Yeah, what our goal is, and we had talked to Keegan about this, is to, instead of doing the first phase, and that's evaluating the existing facility and then going into the design of a new possible project, we'd like to do them both concurrently. And because we would use the same team for each of them. And I think we could successfully, and of course, I can't control some aspects, and that's people's decision, you know, and relating to us what they want. But I think we could have everything ready to go to a cost estimator in about 3 weeks on a new design, 3 to 4 weeks. I think that's a doable situation. And on the first part, which was the evaluation of the existing facility, not so much a cost, but an evaluation, I think we are shooting for 2 months on that. So I guess I would have, I'm sorry, I misspoke. So the first phase would be 2 months, the second phase would be 3 months. I apologize, I said weeks, but I meant months. So I think we could have something for you on both aspects within 3 months at the latest. And that would be an evaluation of the existing facility and a cost to renovate and add the next phase.
Do you have any idea of the cost of those two services?
Yeah, I think we presented that to Keegan. But, the first phase, which was the evaluation, and that included us, the pool contractor, the MP&E engineer, was $21,390. And the second phase, which is me basically designing a building, getting the MP&E guys to do their basic design for enough for a estimator to give us a general cost, and the pool guys, that total was $34,500. I know it's not used to your 1 million design phase, but we're trying to help.
I guess this is for Mr. Littrell. I know earlier in the process we had discussed about the idea of that it might be a good idea to have, you know, two different entities, one that's looking at, you know, the rebuild aspect and one looking at, you know, new construction, just so that there is no potential of conflict of interest or anything like that over, well, what we really want them to do is to go with the bigger one or whatever. Do you think, I mean, but unfortunately, of course, we are also up against a bit of a time crunch here, and we're trying to make sure we get something put together that's reasonable for the residents. I mean, do you have any concern that doing this way might give that appearance, or do you think it's a reasonable and
This seems pretty reasonable and fair to me. I could see it if we had one company doing a full-blown design and one doing the analysis. There might be a little conflict there, but with them just putting together a proposal, just some quick sketches, enough to get them to an estimator, I don't see a conflict in that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just, you know, really the problem is the people, it would be nice if we could both be working on the same project, simply because it's good for me to go to my engineers and say, okay, you know what's here. Let's value engineer it and make it work, or tell me what I got to do to fix it to do this new design. You know, let them, instead of one engineer going, well, I'm waiting for the other engineer, or I'm not sure his information's right, or I disagree with them. Sometimes it's better in these situations to have the same team, because there's no finger point. Everybody knows what the end goal is. As they're looking at it, they're knowing what the end goal is. So I think it's, you know, and as was just stated, you know, if you guys were looking to do this plus a huge, you know, $60 million project, that's a different issue. But my goal here is to provide a service that value engineers this to an affordable point.
Thank you.
This is Mayor McManus again. Have you seen the drawings that the city has prepared based on our input?
Yeah, we have site plan option 3, site plan option 2, and we have another one that proposed building overlay. So we are familiar with some of the ideas that have been thrown out there.
Yeah, I shared the list that's in the packet of some of the most frequently mentioned items that we want, and shared some of our discussion from our past meetings, just to steer them in the right direction, because we don't want to go down the same path that we already did and be looking at another $40 million pool.
And,
Right, and then
go ahead.
And then our job will be to also give you some good recommendations, like, why are you getting rid of this? Let's just keep it and let's do, our job is to become have a successful project, not just to spend lots of money. So really, if we are allowed to proceed, we'll probably have a kickoff meeting with all the different entities and say, all right, and if then something was missed on the list, they can say, hey, don't forget about this or don't forget about that. Like the people at the pool, they would be good people to talk to just because they see things that maybe others don't. But when we did a site visit, they were all so very helpful. Not so much telling us what they wanted, but just helpful in directing us to different things that they know have been problems.
There is one item on the list of design elements that I know we had discussed in the past, and that was seating for probably up to 250 people, I think is what we had discussed. Some type of retractable bleachers or something of that nature.
I have that on my list for possible design features and elements.
All right. Are there any other items that anyone has noticed that maybe we don't have on the list right now?
Well, I would encourage Keegan and just to send a quick list out to everybody, and maybe everybody can just add to something that they may have heard or seen, or just to make sure nothing's missed. But we're open to whatever anybody wants to do, and if it changes a little bit here and there, you're not going to see a change order for our services. It's just, we're just trying to create something that everybody is on board with instead of the public throwing it back at you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and we've actually been at this for a while now, talking about this pool, probably a couple of years at this point.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are ready to be moving on.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, and this is exactly what I had written down for tonight, is to talk to an architect and go over this list, exactly what we're talking about, and get it going.
Great.
I was thinking, if we could get the pool built, I don't know if it changes it or not, but if we focus on getting the pool built fast, so that way the kids from the school and or the club swim can swim, they're not put out for too long. That'd be something just to consider. But,
yeah, it'd be nice to be able to do it in stages instead of having to shut the whole thing down for 23 to 30 months, as stated in some of the items. It'd be nice to see how we could do that, and that would be using the same team to evaluate both, because they can come in and say, we can use this, and then let's transfer it to here, and then it's maybe only down for 6 months, but that's just something we'll have to figure out as we go.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I guess I have a question more about process and time here. Is saying we think this is a good direction, we want to go that. Then does this have to then go before council for council's approval to determine that, and then because then that puts us into January, and I'm just trying to think of the timeline here and how this all works out.
It's under the threshold that staff will be able to sign off on it, so we can sign that contract. We're ready to go with the PO for the original analysis of the existing pool. I just held off another few days just to be able to put it in front of you guys to see if you guys were open to it or if it was a bad idea, so we can go either direction.
And I think the target process is, we have to get voter approval for this type of money. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the timeline, is getting those ballot questions on the June ballot. Because if we don't get the money, then we'll have spent a lot of time here for not much.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say, just kind of echoing Mr. Stevens in that, we've spent a couple of meetings now kind of discussing this layout, this idea, but ultimately we do need to start getting into the phase where we have somebody coming back with us with what are these aspects going to cost? What's the time frame, so that we can really get this to the voters in a useful way, so that they can make informed decisions when they're at the ballot box.
Yeah, and we're planning to have renderings and stuff. I mean, that's why I think the best way to sell it is visually. I mean, we can all tell everybody what they're getting, but so, within our price, we're going to plan on doing some renderings and, at least something to show people so they can see that, they're going to get something for their money instead of, just a bunch of words. And I think we could meet the deadline as needed. Basically, I'm here to do what we need to do. So if you guys came back and said, I need to have this by end of April to get it on the ballot, then that's what we need to shoot for. I mean, that's the goal. Otherwise, like you said, our time's being wasted, and so is your money.
Yeah, I think our timeline is actually end of March or the very beginning of April, so that we have sufficient time for the necessary approvals. So I know that.
Yep, and if we could get started by beginning of January, I think that timeline is completely doable and will be achieved.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, if there's nothing else for Sheldon, I can move on to the plans that we created. Sheldon, thank you for being on the phone. I'll be in contact in the very near future.
All right, I hope all of you have a good, safe evening. Be careful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we took what we discussed at the last meeting and came up with two different plans here, shifting it as far as we could south and still utilizing the existing racquetball courts. You can't see it very well, but there's an outline of the existing building in a dashed line on here. So we could still do it in a phased approach. This is the kiddie pool area that doesn't need to be constructed right away, allowing the existing building to stay there and still utilizing the pool as we're building the new pool. This also would allow that we could use some of the offices, and we wouldn't have to construct this portion of it right up front if we chose to go that direction too. But these are just a couple different ideas of what we had put together. There's also a couple other plans that I didn't have printed out, but there were just thinking outside of the box. One of them was actually doing 2 stories above the offices and the lobby and everything, and incorporating the MUB and the Girl Scout building. I know we've said we're not sure if we want to approach the Girl Scouts at this point, but it was just thinking outside of the box, trying to open up as much as the park as possible. So we got other ideas that go along with it, but I just didn't bring those with us. That's something we can decide if that's the route. If we do decide to go for a new pool, that's something we can decide down the road.
It does look under these drawings, though, the Girl Scout building's fine, the multi-use building's fine, the barbecue pits are fine. We do lose 1 tennis court and the existing public restroom.
Yes, we do. And then there was access. I can't remember. I thought we were going to have access somewhere down here in this corner. I know it's still a little ways away from the tennis courts, but it would still be access to a restroom. And all of the interior walls and the layout in the building, that can all be changed during the design. This is just showing you conceptually the shape of the building. So if we choose to add a restroom in another location, that can always be done, just so it can be in a central location.
I think another thing is with the Sheldon involved now, I think he may even have a timeline or something different, unexpected, where we may be able to retain a tennis court. He might say, I can do a pool in X amount of months. When end of school starts, boom, knock it out. it may be really quick on that and then use portables for offices and things like that. I know we don't want to close the pool for any amount of time, but he may have some kind of, I don't know, idea, hopefully. I really look forward to hearing from this guy.
You know, the only issue I see is the entrance. You know, where's that going to be located? And I see what you've done, and again, I appreciate what you're doing there, but, you know, trying to move all that interior stuff around in some way to allow a lobby with an entrance, so, you know, one shows the entrance off of Avenue B rather than off of 6th Street.
Yep. There was just some different options.
Okay.
That's where this one got swung 90 degrees, where we'd still be able to come off of here. It's, again, it can be something that we can
And
fine
again, the
tune.
only, you know, the concern always is parking, of course.
Yep.
And then, you know, ease of access. How far does someone need to walk from the parking lot to the entrance?
Yep.
I just had a couple comments. I think on the number one is something that it seems like the entrance can be a little closer to 6th Street and to Avenue B, how it is right there, you know, and the front desk could go back, creating a really nice lobby. And then once again, if, you know, maybe working with the architect, if one of these racquetball courts could somehow be changed into the group exercise room, and then once again the old offices, you know, if that was something for a kitchen or more storage, just being able to utilize that. And it sounds like he's going to be able to, you know, move some stuff around where we could, even if we had to move the whole lounge and the entrance more to the left, it's kind of condensing it so that it, you know, I think the pool pretty much has to be where it is, but almost elongate it so that if we want to move the entrance closer to Avenue B, I mean, besides that, it's kind of all the elements are there, and if we can use anything on the racquetball courts or exercise rooms or storage and stuff like that would be a step ahead.
Yeah, with them doing the analysis of the existing building, I think that's going to provide a lot of information for us of what can be reused and what needs to be completely rehauled. If we do choose to move towards a new pool, he'll be able to pinpoint, you can reuse this, and this of the building, whether it be restrooms and the locker room. I know those are two that are in pretty poor shape. Bad example, sorry. But if we can reuse the offices and the racquetball courts, but we got to demolish the restrooms and the locker rooms. So when they do their analysis, I think that's really going to help point us in the direction, no matter what route we go down. I've talked to Sheldon about our urgency for the ballot questions, and he seems very open to doing what we need him to do in terms of the existing pool, and if we choose to contract them for doing a design on a new one, sounds like he's able to meet what requirements we have.
And I think it's obviously, I think it's a good exercise to be trying to conceptualize this so that we can understand. But I also think, you know, at this point, you know, if we can make sure that the elements, you know, like, you know, we want to try and you know, use what we can of the existing area, you know, so that we're not, you know, just having to tear down and build anew. But, you know, I want to make sure that he also feels free to be able to, him and his team, to look at it and say, this might be a more efficient use of the space, and this is what will allow for best access and for, you know, so I think, you know, I don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into saying this is what it's going to look like, and then, you know, he's trying to you know, really, you know, worry about, if I do this, then I lose this aspect. I want to be able to make sure that we're getting a good design from somebody who, you know, that's their job, is design. And, you know, I know there's some of us here who have that background, but not all of us. And so, like I said, it's a good exercise for us to try and conceptualize what it may or may not look like. But I'd want to make sure that we're all a little bit open to that. Some of these small factors might change, and hopefully for the better. I think that would be the hope here, is that, you know, what comes back to us is better than, you know, even all of our heads combined could have really put to paper trying to move the pieces around.
Can I ask, can you just give us a little background on why you chose this company? Is this what they do, pools?
They have done a substantial number of pools. They were one of the top three applicants or consultants that put in for the RFP that we did about last Christmas. And then we just stuck those all on the shelf until here recently. So we brought SCA and two other companies in for interviews. Two of them were held virtually, but SCA actually came in. And one of the biggest selling points for them is one of the gentlemen on their team was an actual pool builder. And they all went down and took a tour before they came in for the interview. Roger, Julie, Jim, and I were all on that committee, and all four of us just, as soon as we were done with that interview, it was the last one, we all looked at each other and said, they're it. They had all the aspects where he's talking about the architecture, he's got a pool builder, they're on their team, they have the mechanical, he was saying MPE, mechanical plumbing and electrical, they've got that on their team. It was just kind of an all-in-one, and they had all the right answers when we were interviewing them.
Thank you, I was just curious. Thanks.
Without complicating things too much, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the Mirtha type pools. And if it's possible and is not going to result in huge delays or confusion or whatnot, if they could price both a concrete pool and a Mirtha pool, I think that would be worth discussing. Everything that I've read is the Mirtha pools, you may pay a little more up front, but the maintenance, the long-term rehabilitation, if necessary, of the pool is much better than with the concrete pools. But again, time is of the essence on this, but I think that would be worthwhile looking at. That's obviously the pool is a major component of the pool complex. So.
Yep, I agree. And from my own research and what I've read, I've heard a lot of the same things about the Mirtha pools, and I want to leave all of our options on the table. Like Mr. Adams was just saying, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into one corner. Everything that we've been discussing, I want to throw out. These guys are the professionals, and they can help steer us in the right direction.
And again, I don't recall his name right now, but the representative for this area for Mirtha pools, former competitive swimmer at UNLV, has overseen multiple projects of these. I think is another asset to the project if he's available to look into things like that.
Yep, I totally agree.
Any other questions or comments?
I got one. On that list, I think it would be good, maybe tell that guy if he can incorporate some lounge chairs so we can lay out. I'm serious about those lounge chairs.
Terry's thinking about 4th of July.
Yes, he is.
Sitting out there in the park. I have a few at home in case they forget that. All right, any other questions or comments? The list of elements is on page 13 of our packet. Again, it does appear to include the items we've been discussing. I mentioned the bleachers earlier. Any other items on there that we've not discussed other than the lounge chairs?
Just a quick question with regards to the diving board and the climbing wall. If I'm looking at, we're talking about so that the main pool would be of a depth at one end of the pool. Is that, I'm just trying to, the conversation's been so long ago.
Yes, one pool, on one side of the pool, on the north side, it looks like, would be the deep end. So it would go, I think it's a minimum 7 feet, if I'm not clear, around there, and it would go down into 13 or 14 feet. And so that's where the diving boards would be, the one diving board and the 2 climbing walls would be.
Any other items that we may have overlooked? well, again, Mr. Luttrell, I appreciate that. We'll move on then to our next item. Update regarding items related to repairing the existing facility.
Well, before we do that, I mean, everybody looks like they're excited about having these people do this, and, I mean, what do we need to do to make a motion to say, hey, we want to do this?
I believe we've already authorized the work to be done, so I think it's,
That's good.
yeah, I think Mr. Luttrell's ready to go on cutting the checks, so.
I'll give him a PO. I'm not cutting a check yet.
There you go. Yeah, we don't want Diane Pelletier to.
No, I got to stay on her good side. The budget's coming up.
That's right.
Okay, item 3 is me again. So as the mayor was just saying, an update on the existing aquatic facility. As we were talking about a minute ago, SCA Sheldon Colon is ready to go. I can have that PO in their hands tomorrow, and they'll get started on doing the existing pool. He was telling me on the phone the other day, 2 months or less to be able to do that analysis, and I'm very hopeful that they'll have at least some information that I can share with the committee well before the 2 months. I know we'll meet middle of January. I'm hoping I'll at least have a better update at that point. But then also, Pool Serve, the company I shared the estimates with last time, I actually got a 4th estimate. You'll see the first estimate for $204,000. You saw that before. That's for replastering the pool. And then the next one for $155,000 is redoing the trough around the pool, and $351 for the deck. Those are all the ones you saw before. And then the new one is for the equipment room, excuse me, for $310,000. So that's something we can keep in our back pocket for when SCA is doing their analysis of it. Just to compare apples to apples. I know this isn't comparing the whole facility on what we can reuse. This is more focused around the pool, but these will definitely be something good to compare with. So, other than that, I don't have much of an update for the analysis on the existing pool.
Thank you, Keegan. I was, every time I look at the Pool Serve thing, it stands out to me, I'm not an architect, you know, that they don't know if there's major structural damage that exists, and none of it will apply if there's major structural damages, which we kind of suspect. So I'm just wondering, and I don't know, Sheldon's going to address that too, right, when he does his existing pool analysis, and he's going to do both. Am I clear? The existing and also a replacement?
Yep.
So Sheldon's going to work on both.
Yeah, for the existing, any company that comes in to do an inspection on it, if they don't tear up the pool and look what's beneath it, they're not going to be able to tell us structurally how it is. I know Roger's told me in the past that we've had main water lines break underneath the deck, and luckily they were underneath the deck and we could jackhammer that out and get down to them, but we don't know what's going to happen underneath the pool. Even the guy from Pool Serve that I met down there, he said we could replaster this, we could finish the whole deck, and as we're driving out of the parking lot, one of those main lines could break. But he said it could also be 10 years from now. We just don't know. And so that's the trickiest part about it, is no company can guarantee it. He can put a guarantee on the material that he puts down, but if we have major structural damage that isn't caused by him applying it, then that warranty is not going to apply. Sorry, not a very good answer.
With this 4th estimate, the one for 310 on the equipment room, do they feel that the existing room would accommodate these improvements?
Yeah, he was talking to me, and Dave Stanton is our facilities maintenance supervisor, so some of the stuff was going over my head, but him and Dave seemed to have a good conversation, and they said by rearranging some stuff within the existing room and using some newer equipment that takes up a lot less space, he was real hopeful that he could get everything in there and still allow room to get around. He said it would be ideal to add on to it, but that's not what we're looking for right now. If when we get into it and actually get a design on what we need to do to repair it, and it is needed, then we'll cross that bridge at that time.
All right, thank you. Any other questions about these estimates, and again, Mr. Cohen's not here this evening, but this was the company that Mr. Cohen had contacted to have them come out and do this. I mean, this takes some effort for these companies to put this together, so I really appreciate Mr. Cohen reaching out to them and this company being willing to put this together.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I can't, his name's slipping my mind right now, but younger gentleman, but from what I was told, they manage all the MGM pools, do all the work there, and he really knew what he was talking about. And me having an engineering background, I knew a lot of the stuff he was talking about, but when it came to some of that equipment, I wasn't sure.
All right, any other questions on this item? And again, this is a possible action item, but I think, at least the way I see it, until SCA comes back, because these estimates were just to do certain types of work, but until SCA comes back with their evaluation, we're still not able to make a decision on whether to go ahead with the current facility or something new.
Correct.
All right, then we'll move to item number 4. Again, thank you, Mr. Luttrell.
You're welcome.
Verbal report regarding the June 2021 ballot questions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to let you all know that at the December 8th City Council meeting, the council approved holding the 3 proposed aquatic questions until its January 26th meeting, so that more specific information about the scope of work and costs could be made available. And I have our acting City Attorney Brittany Walker here to say a few words regarding the ballot questions.
Thank you, Roger. Good evening, or good afternoon, committee members. Brittany Walker here. I drafted these 3 ballot questions. As Roger just reported, the council felt we needed more concrete numbers on the cost estimates for the aquatic facility, which we've just authorized, so we'll be seeing those. There are 3 ballot questions, all related to the Capital Improvement Fund. The first ballot question would appropriate an amount not to exceed $7 million from the Capital Improvement Fund for the aquatic center. The second ballot question would approve of an annual disbursement from the Capital Improvement Fund into a pool reserve fund for an aquatic center, and that annual disbursement would then sunset. We discussed 10 years after it's approved. And the third ballot question relates to the proceeds of the land adjacent to the Boulder Creek Golf Club, known as Track 350. In 2010, the Boulder City voters approved the sale of this land and simultaneously approved the use of those proceeds to be expended from the Capital Improvement Fund as follows: 10% toward public safety capital needs, and then 90% towards the Boulder Creek Golf Course revenue bonds and other capital debt. Those revenue bonds were paid off in 2015, and then this question seeks to redirect the 90% of the proceeds. It can still be used for capital debt right now, but the approval of the question, if it's put forth to the voters, would allow the proceeds of the land sale of Track 350 to be used towards an aquatic center directly. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Would you just say numerically what those are again? Wait, hold on, 1, 2, and 3. Speaking your mic. Is the question about the tract, Glenn, is that number 3 or number 1? Will it be?
The ballot question numbers haven't been assigned yet.
Okay.
So it's, those are just the order that they're in the agenda packet.
Thank you.
I think they might be actually opposite. I think they got put in opposite in this packet, but I know in the last packet it was in the other order that you had previously just read. So, but I think that's where the confusion is right now. But
So this is number 1. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to say, I think the fiscal impact comments are real important. I like them. I think it's really well put, and that's a major sales point to the community.
Thank you.
People always like hearing no taxes rather than taxes.
Hey, that's good.
I know there were some questions or discussion about the use of, some of this money could come from solar leases and stuff like that being in the question. I know with this one, including without limitation solar leases, but I also know there was some discussion, at the council meeting about, that sometimes that language can be a little bit confusing and can start to mix up people's minds about what exactly they're talking about. So like with this one, this line right here, including without limitation solar leases, I think people see something like without limitation and they start to think, oh, without limitations, they're just going to use all the money and nothing's going to stop them or anything like that. But so I just, I'm not sure if you wanted to address that or if there were other members, because I know that was kind of an important aspect for some people that they wanted to see language that solar leases would be somewhere in that question itself.
Yeah, I can address the drafting of it. The pool ad hoc committee, when they initially reviewed the prior ballot questions, felt there needed to be more clarity on where the funding comes from within the capital improvement fund, within the ballot question. So I made an effort to put that in the ballot question itself. As Councilman Adams points out, it clarifies that the proceeds of the sale and lease of city lands, including without limitation solar leases, are the source of funds for the capital improvement fund. But I would actually recommend against including that in the question language and rather include it in the explanation and digest, because as Councilman Adams points out, it could be confusing to voters when we have that in there as to what the question is really asking.
And again, these were issues that were discussed at the council meeting, and, again, I believe we had said we wanted those things rewritten in these questions, but again, if there's any comments from this committee, we can certainly make sure that those get shared with the rest of the council members.
Yeah, I think the way the attorney says it is, if we did put it in the explanation, maybe that would be sufficient, and it would just be clear and easy.
I agree too. I just wanted to be sure, since there was the discussion here with this committee prior, that there was some comments or concerns. I wanted to make sure that they at least had the opportunity to be aired again.
Yeah.
Just in case, so, new information, new ideas.
I think it's important to highlight that the solar leases do create some positive revenue like this also.
And it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to consider in the explanation, we know that there are going to be 2 new solar projects coming online here in the next, 18 to 36 months. Those will bring in approximately $1 million a year in additional lease money. Again, I think we want to communicate to the community that we know there are certain things coming in the future that will pay for this project. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I was just going to say that, it's just wording. It's like aquatic center, in terms of having problems getting it approved, I don't know if we can limit it to pool and still be honest.
I like insisting on the word pool, but.
Facility instead of center, maybe?
Okay, because something that emphasizes mainly we want the pool services, and maybe we can add things on later if money and whatever. But I just remember when some of the arguments when I was trying to get people to to support it, they would say, oh, but we have a fitness centers, or we have this, or we have it's going to compete with it. So I just didn't know if it's better to say pool, or is that not being honest with it? I don't know. It was something that catches my attention every time I read it.
I don't know, the one that's been there for, since 1960 was always called the pool. People didn't say, oh, I'm going to the aquatic center now.
Exactly.
And it doesn't say pool outside too.
In big letters.
On the writing.
In very big letters.
On the writing.
In very big letters, it says pool outside.
I do think that's a good point, because I know when the last question, a lot of people, oh, it's going to be a cultural, that term center gives the connotation that it's going to be a big complex where it's going to be, of course, I think everybody, should we move towards a new facility, we want to make sure that it is new, state of the art, and that it's something that the community wants. But I do think words like center do give this connotation that it is beyond just that one central service, that it is something for a lot of other different things. So I think that is a good point. But I'm not sure what the legal definitions are, under, how things have to be defined by NRS, whether, it has to be aquatic facility or aquatic center. If you just say pool, then all you can do is just the pool and not talk about any of the other little things. So I don't know those answers, but I think it's a good point to be made.
Sure, and these questions will be brought back to council in January, so revisions, there's still time to be made, and we can make sure, obviously, we need it drafted broadly enough to encompass all of the expenditures that we'll need to pay for. So you may want to have a pool facility or a pool and related infrastructure, something along those lines, but it's definitely something that can be revised.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, and again, I do think, because, this is something that the finance director had put together some time ago, and I'm not even sure that the most recent approved solar project was known at the time this plan was put together. So I think that's something that we, as council, certainly this committee can make their feelings known on it as well, but something that the council may want to look at and say, well, you know what, we know we've got additional money coming in that was not available when these questions were initially prepared.
Yes, and with council direction, I think I wanted to also bring to your attention that the numbers will need to be revised as we get estimates for what the cost of the pool is, but also it's helpful to keep in mind, we can also revise these numbers based on what money is available in the capital improvement fund, and just because the capital improvement fund is such a restricted fund and requires voter approval to expend those dollars, the ballot question can approve a ceiling amount as well that would allow the funds to be used up to that amount to provide enough funding to construct the facility. And if that money isn't used for the facility, then it just stays in the capital improvement fund.
And I know too, because again, it has been a topic that's been discussed. There were ideas on placing the new facility elsewhere. My feeling is, and as I recall the discussions that have been held, we do not want the facility moved away from the schools. It's kind of in the center of town as it is. So again, anyone who believes differently that we should consider other locations, I believe that question has been well settled, but anyone wishing to make other comment on that?
No, the pool's good right where it is right now.
Okay, because that was also a question that I frequently received from voters on the last ballot questions, because it was not specific where that money was going to be spent. And I believe designating Broadbent Park as the location is probably going to clarify it for more people that we're not doing things elsewhere. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Ms. Walker. Okay, we'll move to item number 5 for possible action, discussion, and recommendations regarding future agenda items. So this is where we get to talk about what we want to talk about next time.
I'll just say Keegan kind of, Mr. Luttrell, sorry, took the wind out of my sails, because I really did want this committee to start moving forward and getting some real responses about what is this going to cost and what is this actually going to look like. So I'm happy to see that we already are going to be starting to move in that direction, and we're able to have the initial conversation of that today. So it's very much appreciated.
So I guess that will mean keeping item number 2 as we move forward and the firm has an opportunity to begin their work. Probably item number 3. For this committee's next meeting, the City Council will not consider the ballot questions again until the January 26th meeting, which I believe would be after this committee's next meeting. So I don't think we need to place that on the next agenda. Any other topics then that we need to discuss for our next meeting?
Maybe I've forgotten, but I know that this committee's supposed to end next month, right? Was there a motion made to extend it, or?
The council has extended it
okay.
through, yeah.
Through what? March. End of March. Okay, end of March.
So we're legit to be here. Any other questions, concerns?
I mean, do we need to, I mean, I'm not sure at what point, but, time is everything right now. I mean, should we be at the point where we do reach out to the Girl Scouts just to start that conversation if it's a thing, or are we pretty sure? I feel like at this point we should either be pretty sure that we're not going to touch it, kind of continue as is, which I personally am fine with. I think that's a good direction. But I think if we did want to actually start having discussions, we should have that. So, we have to kind of make that decision, I think, pretty soon.
I would prefer to wait until the architecture firm at least comes back and says, that something like what we've been discussing is a possibility. Again, there's no need to
scare anybody. No, I agree. I just wanted to make sure that we're at least aware of that.
Well, just about the Girl Scouts, I mean, I love the Girl Scouts. And I think that, like I mentioned last time, it's like they're into science, technology, engineering, math these days, and they might have a great idea for what they want to do that may be glad to get rid of that building. I mean, I don't know where they stand. So I just think they might be partners in this as a possibility down the road, whenever the time comes, whatever. But because I don't know that much about our local Girl Scout group, but I do love Girl Scouts.
I have a question. I walked over and looked at the building, and you were right, it's very sound, although the roof looks like, so whose responsibility is maintaining it?
It's the Girl Scout responsibility. We had an issue with the roof and one of the doors that the water was water damage, and they took care of that. And that was a number of years ago, but they did.
I'm sort of with Councilman Adams, because I think that if the architect spends time and thinks that that is written in stone, then, I mean, maybe they'll suggest to us that we should suggest to them, but it seems to me like maybe that's information we should know. I think there are Girl Scouts in my neighborhood, young girls, and they meet at their mother's house. I don't know how often they use that building. I just think it's knowledge we should have, that's all.
Mr. Hall, is that something that you wish to investigate?
Well, I think, you know, I agree with you in the first comment that you made, that why stir the hornet's nest if you don't have to? And basically, we need to wait and see what the architect says, and then if he says that it has to go, then we enter into conversations with them. At least we have something from the architect and whatever. That's my recommendation.
And I think regardless of what happens, even if we're able to keep the building, which personally I favor, just because of its historical nature, or historic nature, I should say, it doesn't mean that they can't be included or there can't be other functions that, you know, like Ms. McNay was talking about, where, you know, interest in science and STEM and stuff like that. So I think there's plenty of opportunity there regardless. So we don't need to be making decisions for the Girl Scouts up here, though.
We'll make sure that a wireless access point goes in on that side of the building, so they can pick up off the city Wi-Fi network. Any other questions or comments? Items to include on the agenda? All right, is that sufficient, Mrs. Callaway, to do it that way then? Okay. We will then move to our last public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak in public comment? Unless, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and committee members. Cherie Brennan, Aquatics Coordinator for the record. So the swimming pool staff would like to thank all of you committee members for your hard work. We want you to know that you are appreciated. As you know, our goal is to provide good programming, well-trained staff, and a facility that people want to frequent, come to, get some exercise, see their friends. So we're thankful that you're working on a plan to hopefully improve on what we have. We have lots of very faithful patrons, two of whom are sitting right here, Ms. McNay and Ms. Carroll. And we really do want to be able to continue to provide our entire community with a good facility. I'd like to take just a few minutes, not even that, to mention a few benefits of swimming and exercising in the water. It increases muscle strength and flexibility. It aids in weight loss. It increases lung capacity and improves cardiovascular health. It decreases inflammation and body pain, and it improves mental health. And we have a patron who really knows about these benefits and is an outstanding role model of commitment and dedication to lifelong fitness. This person has achieved the remarkable milestone at the Boulder City Pool of completing 10,000 miles of swimming. So, let's put that into perspective. The Amazon River is 4,086 miles long. So this person swam the Amazon about 2.5 times. It is 2,547 miles from Boulder City to New York City. So if you could swim there, this person completed that round trip twice. The Colorado River is 1,450 miles long. So this person swam it about 7 times. And it is 52.6 miles round trip from here to Las Vegas, about the length of 2 marathons. So that means this person has done 381 marathons worth of swimming. So the journey to this particular milestone began 34 years ago when the pool implemented the Swim and Trim program and 200 Mile and Up Club, where we keep track of mileage completed by patrons who want to participate in this program. I'm certain that this person began racking up miles long before the program began, so who knows how long ago she actually completed 10,000 miles. So just 2 additional notes about this person. That is, if you haven't guessed it by now. This person's oldest child completed 25 miles before he was even born. Oh, second dose, I'm sorry. My mistake. You know, I try to ask questions subvertly, so. And today is also her birthday. So, thank you, Sarah Carroll, for your dedicated patronage at the Boulder City Pool and for being an awesome role model. And here's to the next 10,000 miles.
How can you tell?
Pull it down. There it is. All right.
There you go.
Also the winningest coach in all of Nevada in swimming again.
There are many, many, many things that can be said about Sarah. Sarah,
You bet there are.
she's awesome. She's funny. We love her at the pool. And thank you, committee and folks, for your time.
Well, again, thank you for pointing that out. Happy birthday, Sarah Carroll.
Well, thank you very much, pool staff, because without you, I couldn't swim. So I'm like, give it up for them, seriously, and for keeping the pool going on. Yeah, I moved here in 1981, and I remember from California where I was able to swim. And prior to coming here, I wanted to make sure there's a facility, so I called and asked, and I'm pretty sure I talked to Roger, actually. Yep, pretty sure it was Roger. And found out that, yes, there was going to be a year-round facility and so forth and so on. So I started swimming in the fall of 1981. So, and sometimes I do more than others, and of course, being retired now, I can do a little bit more, but I will definitely say that it's great for rehab for injuries, and I can definitely attest to that right now. And just for all the kids that have grown up here learning to swim safely and pursuing it to whatever extent they have, hopefully it's a life skill that not only me, but everyone can use. And I just think it's really a valuable part of our community, and thanks to all of you for, showing interest in keeping a pool going on. And again, thank you to the staff, because you guys rock. Thank you. This is cool. This is fun.
And so that's why we have people like you on this committee, to make sure we're doing things right.
Well, I hope so.
That's only 20 years.
All right, again, if there is anyone wishing to call in for public comment, the phone number is 702-589-9629.
Oops. You want me to carry it?
No,
Ms. Callaway, were there any emailed or voicemail comments? Thank you. Again, the phone number, if anyone wishes to call in for public comment, is 702-589-9629. All right, hearing no others, we'll close the public comment period then and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much, and again, happy birthday, Ms.
Well,
Carroll.
thank you, and happy holidays to all of you guys.
Now get well.
Yeah, didn't even talk about.
How long will your therapy be?
I don't know, it's gonna be, I think, a long time.